Imagine a universe where memory is not a function of the brain, but a fundamental property of reality itself. In our universe, objects simply exist. A hammer remains a hammer, a bridge remains a bridge, and a tree remains a tree. But in this universe, every object accumulates experience from everything that happens to it. Scientists call this property historical density. The more experiences an object accumulates, the more memory it possesses. At first, the effects are subtle. Ancient tools perform better than newly made ones. Old roads become easier to travel. Ships that have survived hundreds of storms become remarkably reliable. It appears almost as if objects learn from experience. Once scientists discover that memory is measurable, an entirely new branch of physics is born. The first major breakthrough is the memory reader. Instead of studying written records, people can directly examine the memories stored within objects. Walls remember conversations, weapons remember battles, and buildings remember centuries of history. Soon, scientists develop memory crystals, materials capable of storing vast amounts of experience. Entire libraries can fit inside a crystal small enough to fit in your hand. Education is transformed. Instead of spending decades mastering a skill, students temporarily connect to memory archives containing the experiences of experts. Knowledge is no longer transferred through language. It is transferred through experience itself. Crime becomes increasingly difficult. A criminal may remove fingerprints and destroy evidence, but the room itself remembers what happened. In this universe, experience becomes the most valuable resource. Ancient objects are prized because they contain centuries of accumulated memory. A carpenter's hammer used for 1,000 years may be worth more than a mansion. A spacecraft that has crossed the stars for centuries becomes one of the most valuable machines ever built. Banks no longer store only wealth. They store memories, skills, and experiences. Parents can pass expertise directly to their children. Entire professions preserve knowledge across generations without losing information. Civilization advances at extraordinary speed because experience itself has become transferable. As memory accumulates, cities begin behaving in surprising ways. Roads remember traffic patterns, buildings remember structural stresses, machines remember successful operation. A bridge that has carried travelers for centuries becomes safer and more reliable than a newly built bridge. A spacecraft remembers dangerous routes through space. Entire transportation networks improve automatically through accumulated experience. To an outside observer, the world almost appears alive. Not because objects are conscious, but because everything is experienced. As scientists learn to manipulate memory directly, entirely new technologies emerge. Doctors discover that organs remember their healthy state. Instead of simply treating disease, they restore damaged tissues by reinforcing memories of proper function. Traumatic memories can be extracted, stored, or transferred. Lost skills can be restored. Scientists also discover that memories contain usable energy. Powerful events leave behind powerful memory imprints. A major battle, a scientific breakthrough, or the construction of a great city can generate enormous amounts of memory energy. Entire industries emerge around harvesting, storing, and utilizing these historical imprints. Memory becomes both a source of knowledge and a source of power. Now let's talk about how intelligent life would evolve in a universe governed by memory physics. Humans would still look broadly similar to us, but evolution would favor individuals who can interact with memory itself. Specialized memory organs would allow people to sense, interpret, and store memories from both living and non-living things. Their skin might gradually develop visible memory patterns throughout life, creating natural markings that reflect major experiences and events. Their nervous systems would be more advanced, with additional structures dedicated to storing and processing vast amounts of memory. Some rare individuals, known as deep memory individuals, could directly access memories stored within ancient objects, forests, cities, or even entire landscapes. These people would become highly valued as historians, explorers, and researchers. Military technology evolves in a completely different direction. A sword that has survived thousands of battles becomes an incredibly effective weapon because it remembers centuries of combat. Armor that has repeatedly survived attacks becomes increasingly resistant to similar threats. Cannons remember successful shots. Warships remember surviving storms and battles. Military equipment gradually accumulates experience and becomes more valuable with age. For this reason, ancient military artifacts become strategic assets. Some nations value a 1,000-year-old warship more than an entire modern fleet. In this universe, experience is often more important than raw technology. But eventually, scientists encounter a serious problem. If everything remembers its past, then what exactly does a chair remember? The chair was once lumber. The lumber was once a tree. The tree was once a seed. The seed was built from water, sunlight, and minerals. Those minerals once belonged to mountains, oceans, and perhaps even ancient stars. If all of those memories remain equally important, then every object should remember almost everything that has ever existed. Clearly, this cannot be true. Otherwise, memory would become meaningless noise. Scientists spend centuries trying to solve this mystery. The breakthrough comes when researchers discover that memories exist in layers. A chair remembers being a chair most strongly. It remembers being lumber more weakly. Its memories of being a tree are even weaker. Everything that came before gradually fades into the background. Scientists call this the principle of dominant identity. The universe prioritizes an object's current structure over its distant history. This explains why a chair behaves like a chair rather than a forest. The older identities still exist, but they no longer dominate. For the first time, memory physics begins to make sense. Another question quickly follows. If objects continuously accumulate experience, shouldn't ancient objects eventually become impossible to destroy? Scientists discover that memory growth is not unlimited. Every object eventually reaches memory saturation. A bridge can only learn so much about supporting weight. A sword can only learn so much about combat. A tree can only learn so much about surviving storms. As experience accumulates, improvements become smaller and smaller until growth nearly stops. Ancient objects become extraordinary, but they never become invincible. This prevents the universe from filling with immortal structures and indestructible artifacts. Scientists then study what happens when an object is destroyed. Consider a wooden chair. For decades, it accumulates experiences as a chair. Then one day, it is burned. The chair's structure collapses. Its identity is destroyed. Most of its memories disappear with it. However, traces remain. The resulting ash still contains fragmented echoes of the chair's history. Scientists call these remnants memory fossils. They are incomplete, damaged records of former identities. A skilled memory reader can sometimes recover fragments from them, but the original object is gone. Destruction is not merely the loss of matter. It is the loss of identity itself. By now, scientists understand how memory behaves, but they still don't understand what is actually doing the remembering. For centuries, most researchers assume memories are stored inside matter itself, inside atoms, inside molecules. inside physical substances. But eventually, they discover a problem. The atoms inside a living body are constantly replaced. The atoms inside a tree, a city, or even a planet continuously move and change. Yet the identities of these things persist. A person remains the same person. A city remains the same city. A tree remains the same tree. Something other than matter must be preserving memory. The answer arrives from an unexpected place. Scientists begin studying whirlpools. A whirlpool appears to be a stable object, yet the water inside it is constantly changing. The pattern survives even though the material does not. This leads to a revolutionary discovery. Memory is not attached to matter. Memory is attached to patterns. A chair is not remembered because of its atoms. It is remembered because of its structure. A human is remembered because of the pattern that persists, while individual cells come and go. Matter is simply the temporary medium carrying the pattern. This single discovery explains countless mysteries that had puzzled scientists for thousands of years. The pattern theory completely changes how people view themselves. In our universe, we often think of ourselves as physical bodies. In the memory universe, people begin to see themselves differently. A human is not the matter that makes up the body. A human is the pattern that survives through time. Your cells change, your memories change, your body changes. Yet, something continues. That persistent pattern is what defines you. For the first time, science and philosophy begin arriving at the same conclusion. Identity is not matter. Identity is continuity. As civilization advances, societies begin preserving entire lives. Every experience, every memory, every skill, every discovery, all stored within vast memory archives. These structures become known as memory temples. A visitor can experience the life of an explorer who lived thousands of years ago. A scientist can learn directly from the greatest minds in history. Entire civilizations preserve themselves across time. Death no longer means the complete loss of knowledge. The experiences of the dead continue contributing to the living. History becomes something people can literally experience. The deeper scientists look, the more memory they discover. Mountains remember millions of years of geological change. Oceans remember ancient climates. Planets remember their formation. The oldest worlds contain unimaginable amounts of accumulated history. Some researchers begin proposing a radical idea. Perhaps memory is not simply a property of objects. Perhaps memory is woven into reality itself. At first, the idea seems absurd, but evidence continues to accumulate. Scientists eventually turn their attention towards stars and galaxies. What they discover changes everything. Stars appear to carry traces of their entire life cycles. Galaxies preserve patterns stretching back billions of years. Even space itself exhibits signs of historical persistence. Reality seems to possess memory at every scale, not just in living things, not just in objects, but everywhere. The universe is not merely a collection of things, it is a collection of memories. And then comes the greatest scientific discovery in history. Scientists realize that memory is not a feature of reality. Memory itself is reality. Everything exists because patterns persist. Everything survives because patterns remember themselves. Even the laws of physics begin to look different. Gravity works today because space-time remembers how gravity behaved yesterday. Stars shine because matter remembers how stars have always shone. The laws of nature are not fixed commands written into the universe. They are habits repeated across billions of years. Habits so old and so stable that they appear eternal. The universe is not a machine. It is not a collection of particles. It is not a collection of forces. It is an ocean of patterns preserving themselves through memory. And suddenly, the question is no longer why objects remember. The question becomes far more unsettling. If reality itself is memory, then what was the very first thing the universe remembered?